After a week of testing, I think it can be said that the new integration of Assetto Corsa with low fuel motorsports has been a success. Today I'm going to talk about what I've experienced thus far, what's good, what can be improved, and also some tips for you. For those of you who don't know low fuel motorsports, let's have a quick recap. LFM basically employs the same logic as iRacing. There is an ELO system that will create tiered servers to have you race against people of your skill, and also a safety rating to boot. Both responds to your performance on track, but unlike iRacing, this is a free service, just like subscribing to the channel. I know that Assetto Corsa has had these systems in the past with sim racing systems, World Sim Series, and a few others, but really none have picked up for one reason or another. In theory, LFM would fall into the same trap of low participation, but fortunately it is avoiding that issue, as the way they did it was a little more roundabout than going directly into Assetto Corsa, because low fuel motorsports started as a way to fix another problem, another one created by Kunos, of not providing an ELO daily matchmaking system for Competizione. At the time, really only Coach Dave existed, and despite ACC having a competition mode, it was deeply flawed and honestly very boring. And if you still do it, it is still boring. So LFM created a whole ecosystem of daily races, special events, recurring championships, to the point it became the place to have a better suited system for Assetto Corsa Competizione. The daily races fed drivers into the system, therefore creating a player base that comes back to it and amplifies the platform as a whole. And that's really the point, because they haven't started with Assetto Corsa, but rather with the community that needed a place to be. And because of it, years later, there is a loyal player base to it with a recognizable name. So shuffling players around or using the same name to bring players to a new title like Assetto Corsa, it will be far easier than any other community trying to do the same thing for Assetto Corsa. They were able to do it with rFactor 2, well, until Studio 397 created their own thing that made low fuel motorsports kind of redundant for rFactor 2. Well, maybe this is a lesson for racing sim devs, right? Anyways, with Assetto Corsa proper, the first one, it has been much better than I was anticipated. I've asked Boris about numbers, and the numbers I'm providing you are already dated. Before the first week was completed, more than 10,000 signups were made from over 3,500 individuals in just 5 days of racing. We have to consider this is just related to a week with a bang spanking new system that not everybody knows about, running only 2 individual races. What this generally means is something similar to what happens in Competizione in this platform. Races will have participation from the European morning to later at night, starting to peak at around mid-afternoon and being full for many sessions during the evening. Once again, the first week only ran 2 rookie race types. On the second week, this week I'm doing this video, the participation continues to be strong. LFM decided to run this time 4 races, 2 of the rookies and 2 rated ones. Just like the first week, the rookie races are pretty much all the time full or have a very healthy participation. The rated ones, they have had trouble to getting full, especially the multiclass one at Daytona. The TCRs tend to become full as the day goes on. The rated races for the time being are not as popular because there is a large number of drivers that registered to LFM just for Assetto Corsa, so that Assetto Corsa player base is still doing the necessary races so they can get out of rookies. So, speaking of races, I've done a dozen or so, mainly at rookies because, well, those are the ones that I wanted to do. And I have to say that my Assetto Corsa racing itch has been tickled and will continue to be tickled for a long time. Your mileage, as always, may vary, and we have to consider this has been the early start or the beta of Assetto Corsa. Generally, the racing has been very, very good. It does mirror the experience I've had it with Competizione at LFM. The choice of Mazdas for the rookie season is brilliant, as the Mazdas are excellent side-to-side, have just the right amount of play. They aren't very powerful and require the performance to be squeezed out of it by maintaining a high degree of momentum. Because it isn't that fast and it's easy to drive, it's the perfect rookie machine. This mirrors exactly what happens in iRacing, and it also may be the perfect non-rookie car, as the Mazda MX-5 Advanced series is super popular in iRacing. In reality, I found out that over the course of the week we've been doing this, there are really a bunch of Assetto Corsa aliens driving with a rookie label plaster on them. It's a really humbling experience when that happens and you get smoked by somebody with a rookie label. The other championship running will be the LMP3. This is a modded car, and this championship has been kind of a surprise. I'm really not a big fan of prototypes, and in the past I have rage quitted out of iRacing Daytona 24 invite I've had running the same car. I didn't go to the race, and I have bailed out a week or so before going into it. Not one of my proudest moments, but it is what it is. I just hated the car. So I kind of took that baggage thinking it's going to be the same with this championship. But even though the car is a mod, the tracks we have been racing on are mods, it wasn't too bad. But because of all of it, your mileage may vary once again. For rookies, in my opinion, this choice of car is a bit of a risk. It's a harder car to drive, so maybe not so much for rookies because it requires more throttle control, and because it's an aero-driven car, keeping the downforce with the car does need a different driving technique, and the braking is definitely impacted by the downforce. The racing is okay, it's more separated in MX-5s as expected, as it mirrors real life and what happens in iRacing as well. Still, here's the surprising part. The races have been surprisingly clean for so many rookies joining the system. I've had a smile whenever I'm racing. You see good fights all around. The pack tends to have at least 2 or 3 people of your pace, so add that with the MX-5s, for example, and that's some top level fun racing to be had. The multi-class racing has been rather empty at my time slots, but we have to remember all the choices now are experiments. Some will succeed, others will definitely fail, and others will need to be adapted to the sim. Assetto Corsa isn't really the sim with the most evolved rule set, and its server system is kind of outdated, and in reality it does suck. There's no rolling starts unless you are emulating it with mods or with a third person doing the base car, but from experience, multiclass can be a little bit of a faff. With all of those things in mind, experimenting is good, though I think keeping it simple will be the best choice, and definitely avoiding GT3 cars to the max should be a priority too, because there are so many great cars in Assetto Corsa base and DLC. Well, unless we're talking about a cup race of sorts, or you just use one car and that's basically it. For rookies, I'd phase out the LMP3s for something else, like the Skip Barber mods. I would also run a test for fixed setups as a way to help out those not as knowledgeable of the platform, and even reduce more the gaps between cars and groups of people. And once we get all of this running, an advanced MX-5 race with a proper sponsors championship would be interesting to have, because I can imagine the amount of people going into it, and there are extremely fast Assetto Corsa drivers out there that don't normally race anywhere outside of their groups. I don't really think that LFM with Assetto Corsa will be bigger than iRacing or anything, but it will definitely steer away some drivers from iRacing into this platform, especially those who don't feel like they are getting their money's worth out of the platform, but they are there because honestly there isn't something that provided a similar experience to what iRacing provides. I'm going to give you a few tips and a few downloads for your Assetto Corsa install that will going to help you out. The first one is Race Essentials. That's the user interface I'm using all the time because it provides all the information from track condition, tire best pressures, your tire condition, your force feedback inputs, and all of that. So it's a very good user interface with quite a cluttered interface, but it gets you all the information you need. Once you get used to it, it's very easy to use. Like most mods, it's installed via Content Manager with drag and drop. You can also go to your Assetto Corsa root folder and install it there, and then you press here and then you press install. But since I have it installed, I don't have any other need for this. To make it active, you go to Settings, you go to Assetto Corsa at the top, then you go to Python apps. Make sure that you have your apps selected. In this case, we've installed Car Race Essentials, and just make sure that this is on. Inside the game, to activate the apps, it's very simple. You go to the drive, and then on the side there will be this drawer, you go to your selected application, in this case Rice Essentials, and you activate it. You can also search your any other app you have, any other mods, search it there, it will be there. But I'm gonna give you another one that is very cool, which comes from the app shelf. Select the app shelf and install these two tweaks, these two mods. The radar will give you a very good radar to work with, and also the setup exchange. The setup exchange is very good because we're talking about a platform that is competitive, and everybody is very competitive in the platform. They want the best setups, or at least a setup that is better than stock. So once you go to your car setup menu, there'll be here this app, the setup exchange app, that will sync into the servers, and then it will have a group of setups that you can use, at least test yourself, and then from there you can tweak them to your best ability. This is super useful if you want something that is better than the stock setup, and it's one of those apps that you really should have on and installed once you have Assetto Corsa Content Manager working. And that's it, guys. I hope this video has been useful to you, and tell us below what has been your experiences with low fuel motorsports, if you've been enjoying it or not, or mods that you could use for low fuel motorsports or Assetto Corsa. Have a good one.